Welcome. In this video I'm going to talk about winders and discuss if they're worth the price. I'll also provide my recommendations if you're considering purchasing one. First off, if you haven't heard of a ball winder, it's a clever device that will wind your yarn into a convenient center pole ball, or what I like to call a cake of yarn. Let's talk about the major advantages of having a winder. With using a ball winder and winding your yarn into stackable skeins, it's far easier to store. You can put it on a shelf, you can put it in a box. It's very convenient. The way it winds the yarn allows you to pull the yarn from the center, which reduces tangling and makes it far more stable when using yarn from it. It sits on the table next to you very conveniently. You can wind a center pole skein by hand, but a winder is far easier and much faster. A ball winder also helps prevent stretching out of the yarn or winding it too tightly that happens far too often when wound by hand. One of the major ways I use my ball winder is to create double wound yarn cakes. Basically, I wind two strands of the yarn at the same time into a cake. This will save time later by making it faster to wrap yarn around my cardboard for cutting. There are several types of winders. Basic ones that tend to have a single eyelet, and they turn the spindle in a wobbly way to create a cake of yarn. They are generally the cheapest version, but tend not to last very long. The next style is a little fancier with two eyelets to guide the yarn. One is stationary, while the other swings around the cake, making a better shaped cake than the single eyelet variety. I'll demonstrate this in a few minutes. Then, of course, there's these luxury ones which are powered, or more like a work of art, a functional art, but art. I don't think they're cost justified. I highly recommend the two eyelet variety as they have some distinct advantages. First, they wind about twice the amount of yarn that the single ones do, typically. Usually 6 or 7 ounce skein can actually be wound all at once, as opposed to with the smaller, cheaper ones, you have to split that into two cakes. The units that I'm recommending are just simply more reliable than their smaller counterparts. My mother's small ones stripped the gears in less than a year, and online reviews of most of them aren't stellar. I replaced my mother's with the cheaper model that I'm recommending, and she's had absolutely no issue with it at all. So I recommend it, as well as the more expensive Stanwood model that I have. So this is the Stanwood Winder. I've got a skein of yarn that I picked up somewhere along the line. If I can find the end of it, I think I've got it out here. Yep, there it is. I'm going to set it aside. Looks like this one might be a bit of a tangly one, but we'll see how it goes. Basically, it's a pretty simple tool to use. You don't want to get the yarn into these gears because, let me tell you, I speak from experience, that makes a mess. That's one of the only disadvantages of this double eyelet variety is that the gears are generally exposed, and they are definitely a hazard for yarn, whereas the mini ones are typically a little bit more protected on the gears. So I got a slot up here to hold it. Doesn't hold it all that well, so I always put 2 wraps on it. And it depends on which way you're going to wind, which way you're more comfortable winding, which way you're going to wind up here, but you can figure it out. Then I grab this. This is the spin eyelet, and I can just pop it in there. It just pops right in there. You don't have to put the end through these. You can just wind it down in and wind it back out. So you don't have to feed the end through and then lock it in here. At this point you can start winding. And as long as this skein of yarn will work with me and comes out easily, we'll have a nice yarn cake at the end. And as expected, it's going to get a little tangly on me, but that's normal. Looks like it's glued to the paper, so that doesn't help. The last little bit of these is always a little bit trickier because it really wants to just wad it up into a ball. But most of the time you can get it to flow pretty smoothly. Don't want to pull on it too hard or it really gets difficult. Almost there. There we go. When I get down to the end, I wait till I get, you know, yay long left. Something looks about like this about this much length. And you can just put it right here in the center of the cake. So it's right here, right about here in the middle. And then I avoid the eyelet, hold it out at an angle so that it stays in the center and the eyelet misses it, to just give a couple of wraps to finish it up. Tuck that underneath, and you've got yourself a nice cylindrical yarn cake that's ready to use someplace else. It's a center pull yarn cake. Here's your end that you can pull out and set down, and I would do that because when you pull it off, it'll just go inside and be hard to find. Then I take the label and I just roll it up and hold it here and then slide it over top of the label, and that way when I store it, it's got the label sitting right in it and I know what it is. Anytime I pull the label out, I generally have to rewind it to get the label back in. But it all works very nicely and very convenient, easy way to store it. Super unit. My mother has the knockoff variety and she's had no problems with it. So with that, let's talk about the two different models that I'm recommending. The one on the left is the one you just saw. It's my Stanwood one. Great tool, worked flawlessly for me. The only thing I've had to do to it in 5 years is add a little lubrication to it. It was getting a little stiff. The one on the right is the one I got my mother about 3 years ago after her Mini failed and ground its gears to death. But as you can see, if you look at the Stanwood one, it has 2,500 reviews and only 1% of them are 1 star and there's 1% of them are 2 stars. Whereas if you go over to the other one, it's 7% bad reviews plus 4% 2 stars, and it's only 109 total reviews. So it's just not as good as the Stanwood one is, but as you can see, the prices are significantly different. So if you don't want to hassle with having to return one or have some problems, you can certainly go with the Stanwood one. I went with it because that was the only one available at the time. When I wanted to replace my mother's winder, I went with the cheaper one, and she's had no issues whatsoever and loves it. So you can take your own choice and decide whether you want to risk getting a bad one. Remember, 7 to 10 to 15% or so people aren't very happy with it. So you can make your own call on that. But these are my recommendation, is that the price is well justified. So I'd take advantage of it. I have affiliate links down below in the description. These are where if you click on the link and then go buy the winder, I will get a very small percentage of money back to me. You will pay the same price regardless, and it will help me go buy some more yarn. I wouldn't be recommending either one of these if I hadn't actually purchased it and used it myself. You'll find my Facebook link in the description below. I've been posting good deals I find on supplies, patterns that I like, and whatever I think might be interest to other rug makers. If you'd like to help me out, you can go watch more videos. YouTube algorithm will recommend my videos to others more often when people watch one after another. I'm always looking for feedback, so compliments, critiques, or recommendations. The comments section are a great way to let me know what's on your mind.